Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lauren if I'm a new face to you here on the internet, and today we are doing my July reading wrap up. It's a paperback on the bottom. Please go read this book. I need that third book right now. Right now. So as always, this is the 7th month that we are doing this, and I can confidently say I've read 87 books this year, and my goal for 2024 was 100 books, so I am beyond thrilled that I've been able and blessed to have read this many books. And honestly, I've been able to read so many arcs this year. How we're gonna do this video, guys, it's the same format as always, but just a quick rundown, a refresher, especially for me. I'm gonna be sharing how many books I read, the total number of pages, what that weighs out in the percentage of pages over months, the total genres, and the formats that I read these books in July. And then I will be getting into the wrap up and a very simple synopsis and like a very summed up thought of my books that I read in July. Okay, so the stats for July. I read 13 books in July, which I know it's the same as June. Okay, I know, but the difference is this month I read 7 physical books, 5 books on my Kindle, and then only 1 audio book. All through June, I was in a reading slump, and the first book I read in July, because I was determined to get out of the slump, it got me right out of the slump. From there, I was reading like 200 to 250 pages a day, and so I felt unstoppable. And from reading essentially only physical or ebooks this month, I read around-ish 4,600 pages. I think I went like a bit over, but you get what I'm saying. 4,600 pages. And I have a stack of all my physical ones like right here, right in front of me, and it's insane when you look at it. As for the genre spread, it was a pretty normal month for me. Like I said, got out of a reading slump, so not as many thrillers, and it was more romantasy heavy. I am a mood reader, and the mood was summerween, which meant romantasy books that would put me right in the mood for fall. And I'm kind of upset that August is not fall, especially here in the South, because I'm ready for pumpkin everything. So I read a total of 7 romantasy books, 2 contemporary romance books, 1 romance with a capital E book. I'll put it up here because it wasn't just like a contemporary romance, it was very spicy. 1 magical realism book and 2 thrillers, and honestly both those thrillers just like were not doing it for me. And like I said, I will show a lovely graph of this because I think it's always interesting. I was in a reading slump in June, and you can see that the pages that I read in July accounted for 20% of the pages that I read this entire year to date. So I mean, it does fluctuate as, you know, a new month comes. I think it's really interesting to see, you know, like, I can't believe I read that many pages. This is reading with my eyeballs. I do not count audiobooks when I'm doing this, so it was just crazy. And maybe at the end of the year, I'll walk you through my Google Sheets whole dashboard setup that I have for myself. I have shared it with a couple friends, but I've worked really hard on this dashboard to make it work for me, and I don't know if it would work for other people, but I have shared it with them. I don't know if they use it as religiously as I do, but I use it to keep track of my reading habits for you guys, and also because I'm a nerd. Now let me show you. It's a paperback on the bottom. There is the whole stack of the physical books I read, and it might not look like a lot on camera. It is a lot in real life. So let's move into my thoughts. The first book of July was One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I did a whole reading vlog where I was reading this duology. Not intentionally, it was just my normal reading vlog, but it just so happened. So One Dark Window, I gave this one 4.5 stars. In this book, our main character, Elspeth Spindle, is infected with a deadly magic that also gives her powers. And this power that she gets, it's unique to everyone, but the power she gets is a dark consciousness in her mind that she calls the Nightmare, because it came from the Nightmare card that is found in her realm. As she navigates her world where magic is feared and controlled by those in power, she has to hide her abilities while also seeking a possible cure for this consciousness that is in her head, because she wants it out. There's a lot of political intrigue and dark secrets, and Elspeth soon discovers the true power of her magic and the danger that it brings to her and those she loves. This book is also available on Kindle Unlimited, which I didn't know at the time, and originally I read it on my Kindle. During the Target Circle Week sale at the beginning of the month, I did get the physical format because I loved both of these books so much. The second book of July was Two Twisted Crowns, which is the second book in the duology, and is the sequel to One Dark Window. I rated this one 5 stars. I can't begin to explain how much I love these two books. And with it being the second book, I immediately read it. Two Twisted Crowns follows Elspeth Spindle from the first book, and then her love interest Raven Yu, and it is an enemies to lovers romance. Elspeth and Raven must navigate the treacherous world of the Mistlands, which is the forest that is controlled by the forest spirit that surrounds their town. And it contains the dark magic and power that threatens their kingdom. As Elspeth battles the sinister spirit of the nightmare inside her, she and Raven must uncover secrets from the past and the mistakes that were made then and undo them for their realm to have a future. There are lots of unexpected twists and turns and lots of deadly encounters in this book. And I would highly recommend it to anybody who is on the fence, or if you have read For the Wolf right here, this blends perfectly and is perfect for a reader who enjoyed those books. Book number 3 that I read in July was Consider Me by Becca Mack. This is a hockey romance. It is the Romance with an E book that I mentioned earlier. Lots of spicy content, and I don't love reading a lot of spicy content. This was one that I did enjoy. I rated this book 4.5 stars. This book is set in Canada. Our main character, Carter, he's the captain of a hockey team. He is a star hockey player, and he is known to be a playboy. But this carefree lifestyle of his is upended once he meets our female main character, Olivia. And she is determined to avoid his charm that has charmed the pants off every other woman in the country. As Carter's persistence breaks down Olivia's defenses that she has about starting a relationship with him, their chemistry sparks an intense romance between the two, which challenges them both to confront their fears and vulnerabilities. This is a heartfelt love story that explores the power of genuine connection and the courage it takes to truly open up to someone else. And as a warning, like I said, when I started talking about this book, it is pretty spicy. Nothing like crazy. It's not a dark romance. It's just normal, but it is very spicy. Book number 4 that I read in July was Funny Story by Emily Henry, and I rated this one 4 out of 5 stars. You might have seen this book if you watched my Charleston vlog, because I brought that with me, but I didn't really read it all that much and I didn't talk about it. But in Funny Story, we follow Daphne, who has just had her heart broken by her fiance, who left her for his childhood best friend, and he becomes engaged to Petra almost immediately. Daphne is in this Michigan town that she is not familiar with, and it happens to be her ex's hometown. So she decides to room with her new fiance's ex-boyfriend, Miles. Daphne and Miles decide to fake a relationship to try to hurt Petra and Peter, I think his name is, and essentially make them jealous. As Daphne and Miles navigate their emotional baggage that each of them has, they start to form a genuine bond. And ultimately, they learn about self-acceptance, vulnerability, and the importance of creating their own independent lives. And it's a great book. I do recommend it. I know in a TikTok that I did, I would say maybe, is this the best Emily Henry book I've read? No, I think Beach Read still holds that one for me, but overall it was a really good book. I didn't get like that overall style of hers in it, but it was still a really good book and I'm glad I have it and read it. The 5th book that I read in July, I did a whole reading vlog. It is my Lauren Roberts reading vlog. It may seem a little bit wonky and out of order, but this is just how Goodreads did it for me based on when I finished the book. So I'm not going to talk about these a whole lot. If you want to hear more of my thoughts, if you've read this series, this trilogy, whatever, go watch that vlog. The 5th book of July was Powerful by Lauren Roberts. This is a novella. It's barely over 200 pages. It's very small in size, and it is from Adina's perspective. I rated this one 4 stars. I did the tandem read. It was very good. It made everything so much more painful. And Powerful focuses on Adina's struggle for survival in the streets of Lute after her best friend slash roommate slash whatever you want to call her, Peyton, is taken into the elite purging trials. Adina forms an unlikely and unexpected alliance with Mac, who is mysterious, and he is a apparently very powerful elite. And the two embark on a quest, I guess, to reunite with their loved ones before the trial. There is a romance that blooms between Adina and Mac. Book number 6 of July was Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This was a reread for me. I read it earlier in the year, most likely February, I think, but I rated it 5 stars. You've heard me talk about this one before, but really quickly. Powerless follows the story of Peyton Gray, who is an ordinary in a world where only elites are allowed, and she decides to hide this ordinariness by pretending to have an elite power that is being a psychic. And she's not actually. She enters the elite purging trial that I was just talking about unwillingly with the future enforcer of the kingdom, who is Kai, and it's enemies to lovers. He is the son of this king who has really hurt her. Peyton gets tangled up in a resistance movement to try to take back power for ordinaries and make them not a threat. The 7th book of July is not a surprise, and it was Reckless by Lauren Roberts. I rated this one 4 stars. This one picks up essentially right where Powerless left off. Did it live up to my expectations? I don't know. I don't think so. But was it good? Yes. Am I glad I read it? Yes. You know, like, there's no problem with me reading it. I'm not mad that I read it, but I think I was hoping for a little bit more from it. We left off in Powerless when Peyton killed the king, Kai's father, and she was on the run from Kai. Now Kit, Kai's brother, is king, and he wants to find Peyton. So Peyton is pursued across the deadly Scorches Desert by Kai and into the hostile city of Dor, and this is all in a high-stakes chase between the two. And like I said, go watch my reading vlog of this whole thing so far if you would like more thoughts on it. Did enjoy the book. I think I had some hopes that were let down. We can only hope Fearless is redemption for Mac. Okay, and that brings us to the 8th book of July, and I was determined not to get a book hangover. So I read The Lost Story by Meg Schaefer. This was a wonderful magical realism book, and I rated it 4.5 stars. The Lost Story follows Jeremy and Rafe, who live in West Virginia, and they must confront their past when they were lost in a forest for 6 months when they were teenagers. Now, in present day, they must help Emily find her sister who has been missing for a long time, and she went missing in the same forest that they were in. Nobody was able to find them when they were lost in this forest for 6 months, and one day they just magically appeared. When they appeared, looking none the worse for wear. So Emily hopes that they can do the same for her sister. The Lost Story, this book really blends magic, memory, and found family in a tale that is reminiscent of classic fairy tales. Literally on the inside cover, it goes, inspired by C.S. Lewis's The Chronicles of Narnia. This wild and wondrous novel is a fairy tale for grown-ups who still knock on the back of wardrobes just in case. And that is what it is. Okay, please go read this book. All I have on it, beautiful. There's a love story, there is a romance, found family, magic world, all set in West Virginia. Book number 9 of July was Storm Child by Michael Robotham. I listened to this audiobook on Spotify, and I think I missed what this book was originally about. It didn't really live up to it for me, and I was kind of let down, and I listened to it just so I could finish it because I was already halfway through. And honestly, it's been like 10 days since I finished this one, and the story has not stuck with me. I could not really tell you how it ended. So I rated this one 3 stars. In this book, Cyrus is a psychologist, and he lives with his roommate, Evie, who he kind of rescued from the foster system in England in a way. But she was a victim of child trafficking. And eventually Evie was rescued from captivity as a child. The two face a harrowing challenge when 17 bodies wash up on a beach shore, with only one survivor claiming that their boat was deliberately sunk, and these are bodies of refugees. As Cyrus and Evie delve into the investigation head on, they uncover lots of dark connections to Evie's past, which reveals a complex web of human smuggling and pushes the two into very dangerous territory. The 10th book I read in July was Her Perfect Girl by Nikki Downs. I want to say thank you to Storm Publishing and Nikki Downs for allowing me to be an early reader of this book. I rated this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. I don't know what I was expecting getting into it, but I do want to give a warning that I've read a lot of thrillers on here. I've read a lot of dark thrillers, ones that will like really make you feel something. This one really was hard for me to read because it deals with a child serial killer, and the family members, like the direct perspective from the family members of the victims. That was really hard. Like I said, I rated this one 3.5 stars. In Her Perfect Girl, the disappearance and murder of a young child, Charlie, shocks her small English town. This leads to the police suspecting that a serial killer is on the loose. As Charlie's parents seek justice and begin the grieving process, they uncover a disturbing fact. Charlie was in fact not a random victim, and the reason behind her murder lies buried in their own past. Book number 11 of July was A Dawn of Onyx by Kate Golden. I cannot stop talking about this book. I cannot stop thinking about this book. Just beautiful. If you've not read or heard of this book, please go look at it. Go find it. Please read it. It is so good, and I think it's underappreciated. Also, it's part of the Sacred Stones trilogy. It's the first book. I also read the second book, and the third book is coming out in October. So I rated A Dawn of Onyx 4 stars. In this book, our main character, Arwen, offers her life to save the life of her brother and her family as they flee to another kingdom. Yeah. And Arwen ends up becoming a prisoner in the dangerous Onyx Kingdom. This is where she has to use her rare magical abilities to heal soldiers. Arwen ends up navigating backstabbing royals, dark magic, and dangerous beasts during her time in Onyx. Eventually, Arwen discovers her true powers within herself that might just be key to her escape and her heart's freedom. This was a ride, and if you are a romantasy reader, this is such a good book. This is a good example of a classic romantasy book. I have heard a little bit of there's not a lot of world building, but I will talk about that in the second book. Here's the second book. Let's talk about it. A Promise of Peridot, that is how I say it, by Kate Golden was the 12th book that I read in July, and I rated this one 4.5 stars. Once again, our main character is Arwen, and she is now reeling from the loss of her mother and the shock of her newfound powers. And we begin the book by her sailing to the mysterious kingdom of Citrine. Arwen is directing her pain and rage towards King Cain Ravenwood, who is the king of Onyx. And he also betrayed her-ish. Together, the two form an uneasy alliance to recover the Blade of the Sun, which is a legendary weapon that could kill the tyrannical King Lazarus of the Fey Realm, who also happens to be Cain's father. Arwen and Kane are navigating complex emotions, dangerous creatures, and a prophecy that could seal their fates. And it left on a major cliffhanger, and I need that third book right now, please. And finally, the 13th book of July that I read was The Fiancé Dilemma by Elena Armas. And I would like to say thank you to Atria Books and Elena Armas for allowing me to be an early reader. I rated this book 4 stars. In The Fiancé Dilemma, our main character, Josie, is dealing with the fallout of 4 failed engagements and convinces her newfound sister, she didn't realize she had, her newfound sister's best friend, Matthew Flanagan, to pose as her fiance to salvage her newfound family's public image. As Josie and Matthew navigate the complexities of their fake engagement, real emotions between the two begin to surface, which challenges their initial no strings attached policy. Overall, this is a great book. This is my first Elena Armas book that I've read. I know it's the second one in the Playing for Keeps series, I think, but I haven't read that one, and I was able to hop right in and understand what was happening. It also is set in a small town in North Carolina. Is it a little romanticized? Yes, but whatever. It's a contemporary romance. It's a rom-com book. Who cares? My one issue that I had with this book is that you can tell Matthew is written by a woman. I love male main characters, male love interests that are written by women, but it seems very plausible that they could just be average guys. And like, Matthew's just a little bit too perfect, if you know what I mean. Like, he's just like always great, always kind, always, and it's like, I know there's no hope of me meeting a Matthew in the real world, even though I do have a boyfriend, which is like, whatever. But like, I like the idea that even though he is a book character and he is written by a woman, I would love for my book boyfriends to possibly exist in the real world, and I just don't think Matthew would, sadly. Okay, and that is it. Thank you so much for watching my July reading wrap up. That was a long one. I simply cannot believe I read 13 books in July and 12 of them were physical. I'm so glad I'm out of that reading slump. If you have read any of these books, or if you've now added them to your TBR, please let me know in the comments below. And if you have any book recommendations for me, also pop those in the comments. If you enjoyed this wrap up, consider giving this video a like. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I post a new bookish video every Tuesday and Friday for you to enjoy. And that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you once again so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.